Warning, the Rise from the Ashes Recovery podcast contains adult subject matter and may be triggering to some individuals. This podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only and should never be substituted for any official clinical or medical advice. Enjoy the show. All right, Vegas, thank you very much for joining me.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's start off with the basics. Well, what's your time and your cup of tea for substances?
All right, beautiful. My favorite topics. My sobriety date is June 27th of 2018. So that is a total of 2,520 days of continuous sobriety. By the grace of God, hopefully I will get 7 years clean at the end of next month. Drug of choices are heroin, meth, alcohol, preferably in that order.
I was going to say, is there an order? Of course.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, we all got a preference, to each their own. But three loves of my life: heroin, meth, alcohol, for sure.
Yeah. It's always interesting to me. That question is more than just like a treatment question. It gives me an insight into like their chemistry. It's like, if you got a table, it's like, are we going up or are we going down? Because everyone likes to be in the middle. Like, even if you go up, you got to come back down, and the other way around.
Yeah, and I mean, it's such an interesting question, because you hear people at meetings like, "Oh, I'm a garden variety junkie," or whatever it is, and I would just be like, "No, thank you. I want this. You know, I like what I love, and I want some more of it. You know."
Absolutely.
100%.
Don't get me wrong though. If shit gets weird and we're out though, we'll make do with what we got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll take a soma just to kick back, you know.
Of course, absolutely. Or 10, you know, however.
Yeah, who cares, right? Yeah, we don't microdose, we double dose, you know?
Absolutely, yeah.
100%, yeah.
All right, so give me the brief history of the addiction, because obviously that 7 years, I know that didn't come easy.
No, absolutely not, man. I mean, I used over the course of like 16 years, right? I always describe my childhood like the show Shameless, right? It's like the only good like reference or analogy that I can use to express the upbringing, you know, in my adolescence. Drugs were very prevalent. Like they were everywhere. It was like, this is the normal way to live. And you know, I wasn't really raised on integrity and proper coping skills. I wasn't taught to be honest with your words, you know. I was told to like use people and manipulate to get what you want, get what you need.
People are a means to an end kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, I mean, no life skills whatsoever. I love my family dearly, and for the most part, I have extremely healthy relationships with all of them due to the fact that I am sober, right? Despite the dysfunction among certain family members, I am able to be supportive and just be there for them. I have the ability to like pick and choose my battles today, which is so unlike me. It's truly incredible, by the way. Me 7 years ago, no way. But yeah, man, weed at 10, 11, coke at 12, crack at 13, just bam, bam, bam. Real quick progression, right? Crack was obviously present in the house with my mom. Right.
I was going to say, someone usually has to introduce that, whether it be the outside or the inside.
Yeah. My mom has like 8.5 years clean now, probably.
Okay, so she wasn't like too far ahead of you.
She's doing all right. I'll be calling her just fucking stressed. And she's like, "Did you call your sponsor?" And I'm like, fuck. No.
Can you just be my mom for 2 seconds?
Yeah. Hey, listen, I need you to fucking just listen to me, right? Yeah. I need an active listening ear. I don't need anything else, you know? But yeah, shit hit the fan at the age of 13. Cops stormed into the house. It was after my parents got divorced, and I went to my first rehab at the age of 13, right? And I speak at these meetings, and I've done all this service work, and I spoke to like the district attorney of the narcotics division of San Diego County, and because I said yes to speaking at a meeting, and this lady's assistant was there, and I got to do this thing for like this school, like it's like a new DARE program type thing. I was like, you don't want me.
I was gonna say,
you know what I mean? Y'all are fucking stupid. But it was extremely professional, and I was extremely mindful throughout the entire thing. And apparently it's supposed to reach over like 5,000 students over the next 5 years, right? Which
hell
is
yeah.
All because I said yes to speaking at a meeting, right? But to backtrack, I never talk about my time in Utah. It's the place I got like shipped off to, right?
Oh, you were one of those where they shipped you off to one of those places out of state and hoping to kind of a behavior modification thing?
Yeah. More just like child abuse. It traumatized me more, right? It broke me down more than anything. I mean, I try to like find the positives in it when I reflect back. At the time, it was terrible. I was there for like 10 months. Within that time frame, My mom got put on drug court. Okay. My dad got custody of us. And I got out of that place like maybe fucking, dude, it was like a week before my birthday. Cause I was like, if I'm here on my birthday, I swear to God, I've been here 10 months. What more can I learn? And they pulled me out. And it's something I like completely blocked out of my memory because of just how traumatic it was. Right.
The whole experience in Utah?
The whole experience in Utah. I mean, other than the nature, it was a fucking disaster. Right. I never talk about it. I legit blocked it off. And I have friends, like my musician friends, they play drums to like some of my music, and just I met the most beautiful people there. We were kids. They're still my friends to this day, but they call me and like, oh my God, do you remember that one time? And I like don't even remember it until it's brought up, and I'm like, holy shit. And I'm like immediately triggered, just like completely in a panic. I'm like, thank you, Dylan. You're a fucking asshole. Um,
Thank you for the trauma response. I
yeah, yeah.
appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you. But when I got out, my like I said, my dad got custody of me, and in that household, it was just like benzodiazepine, alcohol, and like opiates, right? So it's like the
Different
10,
speed than the last house.
yeah, exactly, right? So it's just like substituting one for another, and then like my opiate addiction kind of took a firm grip on my life, right? And it controlled my life for the next like 12 years, man. Legitimately, just it progressed like every other thing in this world.
Oh, this was this pre-fentanyl days, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, man. It was. I mean, thankfully, right? I mean, I always tell people the game has changed,
Absolutely, 100%.
100%. And it's fucking terrifying because I've had calls from people that were like, I'm going to treatment tomorrow. I'm like, you can do it, man. Let's get you back here. And they don't wake up,
Yep,
And it's like,
absolutely.
it is just the most heartbreaking thing in the world,
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, there's that expression that, what's the end result for people like us? Jails, institutions, death. And we all know that's true. But I feel like pre fentanyl days, it's not that it was any less true, but I feel like, there's that age old expression, go get some more pain. Right. And that was a thing before because at least when you talk about black tar heroin and all the other opiates, it's not like there wasn't a death risk. But I feel like the chances of you getting some pain and going, hey, look, I'm done were a lot higher than this one because that is that last one that's it. That's all there is.
Right. Yeah, that term, go do some more research. You know what I mean? It kind of like it doesn't sit well with me as much anymore.
Well, even the game has changed, even if you're not into opiates, because I've heard lots of stories of weekend warriors are just getting that weekend bag of blow where they just go to a bar and do all that, and it's the wrong one. It's hot rails doing something of that nature, or they'll get in what they think is a Xanax bar from that, their trusted source, and it's a press pill. I mean, the game's changed everywhere.
It's terrible, right? Yeah, it's just sad, but it's the reality of the world we live in. You know what I mean? I know all I can do is just use my phone and reach out to people in the rooms, people who are struggling, do my best at my job, and just be as supportive and compassionate as possible toward everybody, right? And I fail all the time with that, but like that's the ultimate end goal, ideally, right?
So I feel like we in addiction already have this. I don't know if you go so far as to say God complex, but we survive a lot of shit.
Mhm.
And then, it starts to almost feed into the exact same problem because you wake up, you survive so much shit, you start getting this notion like, hey, nothing's going to get me. And then you add in fentanyl into the mix where there are people out there who are running, gunning, doing their thing and surviving from that. Do you feel like that adds to that complex of, hey, I can't be killed?
I mean, I think so. I used to make a running joke, "Oh, I'll take a Benadryl now and fucking die." You know what I mean? Because
Right.
I was the dude who could, like slam anything. Like, we're not going to give you two caps because you're going to fucking die, and I'm like, just watch me go, right? Yeah, I mean, it does. It feeds your ego in a way, and that's like why step one, two for me is so important because I had the ability to identify my pride and my ego and how it affected me and prevented me from getting clean and how it's creating speed bumps in the road for a decent future, right? And it's like a simple tool, like how does my pride and my ego affect my daily decisions? I mean, that's like goes like a little deeper in it too, but I do think like you're onto something there because it's so true. Really, we got to hell and back, and we're like, okay, I mean, what's a little bit more, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and it sucks too because we get in that mentality, and it's so difficult to break out of that,
I
right?
mean, it's that whole thing in treatment where, and I get it, like they want to talk about, have a confidence in yourself. And I think this is where sobriety it does this weird thing. When you've been sober for a period of time, you can hear what people really mean when they say things like have confidence in yourself. They're not telling you have confidence in your stupid decisions to go leave treatment and go run and gun and know that you can survive and do all that. That's not what they're saying here. But it's interesting how call it the ism, call it the disease, call it whatever you'd like, does that little shift where it's like, oh, I've got confidence in myself. I can handle this. And it's just completely off base from reality.
Yeah, it's a false confidence, you know? Yeah, 100%, man.
So
Yeah.
obviously we were getting into, so went to go live with dad. Kind of where did it all take you down to? Because I know we could go for war stories for days. Like where did it all wind up for you?
Man, it was like a one event kind of catapulted the initial process, right? And like, I mean, bringing the steps into it again, you do a fourth step and you realize, okay, this happened for a reason, right? Like if you bullshit your way 1 through 3 and you do an honest step 4 and you fucking see that if this dude had hit me one more time, you know, if my mom had called an ambulance a minute later, if that dude was driving 5 miles an hour faster, I wouldn't fucking be here, right? And you get this like inventory out. But I had 3 major events. I call them uh-oh moments, but really it's just pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization, rock bottom, the shit you never fucking said you do and you do. But I ended up running a woman over when I was drunk, right? And I find humor in it, and people tend to laugh at the story when I share it, right?
I've heard you tell the oopsie story as you
Yeah,
heard. Yeah.
it's like skadoosh, and I'm like, oh no, yeah, fucking terrible, right? And that kind of catapulted like the initial process of getting to California, right? Within like because I went to county for 11 months for that, right? And then I get out and I start doing meth because I'm like, I can't do heroin. I do terrible things for heroin, right? And again, it's just like a false sense of reality telling me what I'm capable of doing and not capable of doing, right? So
We also still believe that it has something to do with the substance at that point.
yeah, exactly. I ended up causing like a 5-car pileup in like a meth psychosis. I got 52 50'd. And I remember this conversation too. I was like, I thought it stopped at 51, you know?
Oh no,
And
the
the lady was
surprise. I
like,
got
no,
more
it
for
goes
you.
up, baby. I'm like, oh shit. And then that was like the moment when I was sitting in the hospital. I was like, I need to fix my life. Like, I just can't do this. You know what I mean? Reached out to an old treatment center that I'd been to a few times that last year and was like, I'm ready to go to California. They're like, all right, we'll get you going. When do you get out of the hospital? I was like, 14 days. I don't have a choice. And they booked me 3 tickets. And within a week's time, I overdosed 3 times.
Got to get that last one. I get it.
Yeah, your last 2 raw, right? And I would say the final like nail in the coffin, I was flying to San Diego. And within that week's time, like I said, I'd overdosed a few times. And the drive to Dallas Fort Worth was like the most hollow. It was like my mom was driving, her boyfriend. I'm in the car, strung out and paranoid already, you know? And it was honestly the most heartbreaking thing in the world, right? And it's like instilled in me just this quiet drive to Dallas. It was like a 2-hour drive. And I do like my last shot in the car, and I'm like, you'll never have to see me do this again, you know? And my mom was like, just get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean?
Because she was sober by this point,
Yeah.
right?
She's like, I've had enough of your shit, you know?
Right.
And like still enabling, right? That
Diet
has
enabling,
changed
yeah.
tremendously for sure, which I'm grateful for. But that also comes with my growth, right? I somehow managed to get arrested on the airplane on the way here. Yeah,
It's
so
impressive.
it was insane, right? I was under the impression that the plane was going down because like the lights flashing. Dude, I was fucking freaking out. Like I was freaking the fuck out. I was
There
so
was probably
paranoid,
some plain Jane vanilla person next to you too that was just
dude.
like bad day for them.
If I owe anybody else amends on my 9th step, it's that plane full of people. But there's no way I can track them down. But I just like had a burst of energy and like paranoia. I was like manic and just like screaming, this plane's going down, this plane's going down. And I get zip cuffed and I get taken to the front of the plane. And so we land. Now, this is what God's doing for me, but I can't do for myself. Because when we landed, there's a dude with my name on a sign. And I'm getting like yanked off. I'm like, that's me, that's me. And they spoke for like an hour, hour and a half, dude, and they let me go. They let me go. That was like the beginning of a new book, a new chapter in my life, right? First, the hospitalization, the antibiotics for one, like a 42-day detox, shit in your fucking pants with some like gorgeous nurse named Savannah cleaning you up, humiliation, right?
Yeah.
And then like amongst this entire process, strengths you have that go that you don't even acknowledge, right? Because like I shit my pants and this beautiful nurse is like cleaning me off, and then I have to see her for the next like 28 days to get my medication, and I'm just humiliated. But like I am oblivious to the fact that like I'm a fighter. I'm giving myself another shot at life, right?
Right.
That I'm still alive, I'm still fucking here, and I'm giving it my all, right? It's just like these unacknowledged strengths that we have that we just like overlook every fucking day. You know what I mean?
To be fair, and I don't know if it's a guy thing, there's a few experiences that when you talk about that insult to injury, right? You're like, you're already at your lowest, things are already going south. And it's like, how can we make Vegas just a little bit more humble, just a little bit more embarrassed? Let's
Yeah.
make him shit his pants. And
Yeah.
it's not just going to be like, Sloth from the Goonies nurse type thing. It's like, we're going to make it a beautiful one that he's actually going to remember this.
A
And
memorable one. Yeah.
he's going to have to see her repeatedly after that. Now, I mean, you guys must have been at least on a first name basis by this point.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she's seen every inch of me,
Yeah.
but also too, I felt sincere with my gratitude toward her because I had lived a life to where my body didn't know how to function without alcohol and drugs. Right. And so I did have a sense of, like you said, humility and just being like, okay, you know what I mean? But it was so fucking embarrassing. And I was like, never again. But then again, there have been countless times in those 16 years where I'm like, never again. And, I guess that's when I started the process, really. I mean, it was just like getting clearance from the hospital with the IV antibiotics because even
Yeah.
then I still had a mental obsession of like, I want to go and shoot dope.
Of
Right.
course.
Yeah. They're like, well, you're about to lose your arm. And I was like, but I'm a musician and I'm left handed. And they're like, if these don't work, and you're like, still obsessing over this, right? Because I've been living in this for fucking a decade and a half and like, you don't know any other way. Right. It's become a learned behavior. The lying,
Well, and
the
that's where,
stealing.
like, when we talk about, and again, I get it. I'm not a doctor, just a fucking therapist who's worked in this, but there's those anti craving drugs, right? And we've seen it time and time again. And I'm not going to comment on the medical component of things. I'm just going to tell you experientially, I've seen a lot of people be on these anti craving things and still go back out and use because, like you said, it's that obsession of the mind. Like, there
Right.
are no anti obsession pills.
Right, exactly. And it's really difficult to place yourself in a position to where when you are triggered and you do have a craving and the weight of the world is literally on your shoulders because of all the pain and the manipulation and the trauma and the hurt, right? And comes the emotions attached to that, the shame, the guilt, the angst, right? The remorse. It's so ironic to me because when I'm in that moment, when I'm like 30, 60, 90 days clean and I'm feeling all that shit that I just listed, I go back to my coping skill of drugs and alcohol, which caused this whole fucking problem. And I'm like, that's so fucking stupid. But I don't
And
know
so,
any other way
why
to
do
do
you
it.
think it is that drugs turn us into such a shell of a human being where we do all this? I mean, obviously, I know that's a big question, but from your perspective, why do you think it does that?
It is. It's a thought provoking question for sure. Right. I mean, we can get into like the science behind it. You need the dopamine, right? When I'm in withdrawal, there's that flight or flight response, right?
Right.
And it's like, I will fucking do anything I need to get what I want, right? Sense of uncomfortability too. People think like, oh shit, he did heroin, he must be tough. Like, no, dude. I am like the weakest link. Goodbye. You know what I mean? I have a very low pain tolerance. I'm extremely sensitive, and it's just like things I need to work on for my personal growth. But I think when you become so dependent upon a substance, it's like again that I go into fucking panic mode when I don't have it, and I have to do whatever I need to do to get it.
And you feel like that's where, because I know you mentioned that negative feedback loop. And so, do you think that it's part of one of those things where you go into that fight or flight mode, do whatever you got to do to get it? Maybe you get the relief, but you're able to compartmentalize, and then you just end up kind of repeating that cycle to where that's why when you finally get sober, you finally have the substance removed, you just have to sit there and there is no more compartmentalization. There is no relief. It's just wham, here's everything.
Here you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I agree with you.
Looking back, what are some of the things that you know now in hindsight that looking back should have just been so clear?
Wow, that's a good question, man. I love this. The few things stand out though to me. It's like regardless of how I'm feeling in the moment, like in early sobriety and the emotions that we talked about, like I've accepted it all, right? And I have a firm belief that I wouldn't change a single thing that happened to me because it led me to this moment here with you, right? And I have almost 7 years of trials and tribulations, which I'm grateful for, success and failure. But man, looking back, I'm just like, dude, think about, I mean, I go to my neighbor's house growing up and I'm like, there are no hookers here and prostitutes. What? This is not normal, but this is, right? Like,
Right.
there's so many things I knew was wrong. You know what I mean? It wasn't like the cookie cutter house you looked at from the outside that looked pretty from the outside, dysfunctional on the inside. Like, no, it looked dysfunctional all around, right? It's a set belief growing up. It was all I knew. And I internalized this as normal, you know? Right?
Right.
Yeah.
You talk about from a clinical aspect that conflation of the abnormal had become the normal. And so therefore there's that perception to where, looking back in hindsight, what should have been so clear, like you said, there are no prostitutes here. This, there should have been a red flag that goes off and said, like, hey, something's not right, but it doesn't. I feel like us in recovery, the more time we get, because we constantly look back there from a context of here's where I was, here's where I'm at, and experience, strength, and hope, right? But I know things like the character defect process is an ongoing thing, to where that thing from the past, whether that be something that was traumatic that maybe we wrote off that we didn't think was that big of a deal, actually has a lot of impact there. Is there anything from looking back in the past that you feel like has kind of carried with you into sobriety, then didn't just quite go away as soon as we got sober?
Oh, man, everything. I mean, this is like mostly behaviors, right? Incapable of being honest with myself, with anybody, right? Still stealing, and an ulterior motive to everything I did, right? And this is a good year and a half into sobriety, right? And these are things I'm still working on today.
What do you mean by an ulterior motive, even in a year and a half in sobriety? What'd that look like?
I mean, using people for rides, right? To go to meetings, or getting money for cigarettes, or just scheming to get what I need. And it wasn't that I intended to be that way. It's just, again, this is a learned behavior. It was taught to me growing up. It's been instilled in me, but I have like an outline to change this behavior, right? But yeah, no, literally everything carried through. And it took a long time for me just to sit there and be honest with anybody. And there are many factors in that. What I was taught growing up, you know what I mean? And we hear about it all the time. Like, okay, fear of approval, you want to fit in, you lie to get what you want, whatever that looks like for the individual themselves. But that was the hardest thing to achieve, was just honesty. You know what I mean? Like, I had honest clean time for once, but still I didn't feel good about myself for who I was.
Well, you hear those expressions that they say, like, oh, this is a selfish program. So when you say, like, oh, manipulating people to get rides, I mean, I'm assuming you mean that outside the way of being a little selfish because you got to get to a meeting.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I use people for everybody. I fucking have people buy me concert tickets. You fucking name it. Lying with the full intention I'll pay you back. You never fucking do. It's like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? Like, hey, I don't have money. I don't have a job. My parents fucking hate me. Right? I would love to go to the concert with you. Right? This is like scheming. Then you got people asking for their fucking money for the next like 3 months, and you're like, oh, I'll get it too. I'll get it. I'm working on it. And it's like, just fucking be honest, man. Just digging holes, dude.
Did you consciously know that you were doing that at the time, or did it just happen?
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. Yeah. And that's why I'm big on like ulterior motives too, man. Because I very, very rarely have them in my life today. Right. And it was such a difficult like mountain to climb up and like hurdle over and change, and just be completely self-aware with my intentions going into something. That's something I didn't even consider. I mean, it took what it took, right? And we're here today. But there were a lot of things that I desperately needed to work on, which I did through therapy, through the 12 steps. And here we are, man.
So in your experience, because I know you mentioned a combination of a lot of different resources, right? And again, another hot topic, I guess you would say, in the recovery world is how do you use these various resources, right? Because I would contend, if I'm actively in addiction, I feel like individual therapy has its limits, right? At the same time, I would argue that trying to 12-step away trauma and trying to 12-step away all these other things also has equal challenges. And so it's kind of a thing in sobriety where we have to kind of know how to use these various resources. What was it like for you being able to say, 12-step for this, therapy for this? Like, how did you incorporate this kind of, call it a program, if you will?
That's a fucking good question, man. And it's not even like it's a fine line. The things that I addressed in therapy were more family oriented and like trauma based, with things that happened to me, or like getting molested, whatever that situation looked like, right? Trauma with like my sisters, or a certain situation with my father, right? Like whatever that looks like. I was like, I just need to address this to a licensed professional. Like, listen, John, I love you, my sponsor. Like, I will mention this in an inventory, and I will talk to you about it on a fifth step, but I need someone with letters behind their name to deal with this, right? And the more I talked about it, the easier it got to talk about, and just acknowledging it and identifying it and like working on it. But yeah, for me, it was like more family oriented stuff. Family trauma, I mainly work with my therapist on. I mean, still do for years, right? I mean, it's an ongoing process. I go to therapy every fucking week, dude, for like 7 years. It's been the greatest thing I've ever done, right? Yeah.
Well, and I think that the notion of, I'm going to go in there, and I call them the, that's interesting therapist, that you're going to go there, you're going to lab, and they're just going, that's interesting. It's not like that at all.
No.
12-step, action oriented, very much like, here's a character defect, here's the harm or whatever, my part in the stuff with family, here's what you got to do, go fix it. Right? Therapy, and I mentioned this specifically when you talk about working with the therapist on family stuff, where like I'll take the amends process as an example. You do your 4 step, you say, okay, here was my part, or excuse me, my ninth step. You say, here's my part in, something X, Y, and Z with family. I owe them amends. However, with family dysfunction and toxicity and all those other things, you go with a therapist and they take a much different approach. How has it been for you trying to wrestle kind of those 2 points of one being very action oriented while the other one from a therapy aspect taking a different approach?
I feel like I'm at peace with it, actually. Like with the amends, I didn't make amends to my dad until I was like 2.5 years clean. The time just didn't present itself, you know? I mean, I love him to death, but he's always fucking loaded when we talk, right? And I just had to be patient and wait, and I wasn't really like eager to fucking do it. I mean, he knew what I was doing. He knew I was in treatment and bettering my life. There's a time and a place for it. I do feel though that it is easy to get the two mixed up, or people to confuse 12-step recovery and like a spiritual approach. It's a form of healing. Don't get me wrong, right? It's a very different approach in therapy, and then like a 12-step approach. I mean, we could just do like basics, detailed work type shit, right? And depending on like what it is and what you want to work on, because I mean, I have support right here in the 12-step community, right? I have like a listening ear. And in therapy, I've like a mapped out process to heal from said trauma and to help navigate my way through it. And if I go into a 12-step recovery program or meet with my sponsor thinking that he's just going to magically heal me, right, then that would be a delusion of mine, in my personal opinion, because I knew for sure I'm not going to talk to you about this situation. I will mention it briefly in passing, but like this is for my therapist, right? And like
Absolutely.
I had like set standards of what I needed to work on in therapy, things that kept me up at night and things that affected me the most.
Was that a delineation that you came to yourself? A lot of people that, some sponsors try to be armchair therapists. And so sometimes it can be a challenge for somebody to even know where that line is.
I think I knew from jump. I am grateful though they forced me into therapy at my IOP program. And then after my 6 months, I had noticed I was healing a bit from certain things. And then reached out to a few therapists, had a few sessions here and there, and then I landed with my primary therapist that I have. So I think just like the initial planting the seed and letting the healing grow a little bit in IOP, I was like, oh, this is great, right? Like I need to continue on this while still doing this, right?
Yeah, because I know, like, when I went to therapy finally after being in a 12-step room, I was a big book thumper for a long time, still am, but it's been a process. And I remember going into talking about childhood trauma stuff. And whenever we would get to a certain topic, I would always explain it away. I would always like, okay, well, here's my part. Here, this is what it was. Like mine was having to do with mom, right? So it's like, oh, doing the best you could, blah, blah, blah. And my therapist got to the point where it's like, why do you keep explaining everything? Like, and that's where the conditioning of 12 step came in, because there was that constant, hey, listen, you have a part, you need to take responsibility for your part, you're involved here in some way. And I didn't realize it until later that was actually part of the work, right? Because my therapist, to this day, same thing. Every time I go to explain, stop it, because there's that habit from 12 step. And so it's been challenging to kind of learn that middle ground.
They do overlap, and they can bleed into one another's lives to a certain degree, right? I mean, they're both forms of healing, I mean, it only makes sense that would happen. It seems like it would just be a natural state, meeting with a sponsor or a therapist, right? Yeah, yeah.
And it's a
Acknowledging that.
complicated journey. Right. And that's why I kind of bring this up whenever I have these podcasts to try to get into the weeds, because I feel like the general wisdom is out there. Hey, go to treatment, get physically cleaned out, don't die, get hooked up with some kind of a outside recovery program, whatever it is, work that, however, go to therapy, heal your stuff, don't put substances in your body. It's pretty black and white in that regard. But there's so much subjectivity from person to person, location to location, and that's where it gets complicated.
Yeah, for sure. And we all have a history. We all have different beliefs, different cultures, different upbringings. Yeah, we're complicated people. We really are. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's really interesting though, like reflecting back, you mentioned like reflecting earlier at some point, but reflective thinking, I've gotten to a habit of doing this. It has been like the greatest fucking thing I've ever done, man.
Reflective thinking, like just sitting there pondering and looking back, or is there a
Just
process?
thinking back, yeah, man. Because I would like only reflect when I got like a 30-day chip or a 60 or a 90. I'm just in the moment trying to push through, get to like my next milestone. And I'm like, oh, I got 30 days. I came into treatment. Saying it out loud brings it out of me. And I'm like, holy shit, you were a mess 30 days ago. And you're like a slightly lesser of a mess. But it's something I've gotten into the habit of doing. Like, where was my thought patterns at yesterday, right? What were my behaviors yesterday? Same thing of like doing an inventory at night, right? A very similar thing. But it has been such another tool that I've been using, and that started in therapy, and I've just like applied it to my entire life. You know what I mean?
Well, it sounds like what you're saying is that between a combination of therapy and program, once you stopped the bleeding and going forward, you did things that were good for you,
Yeah.
generally speaking, it wasn't so terrifying to start reflecting back. Because there is that component too, where people, at least including myself, there was times like, I don't want to look back there.
See, I understand that. I do, but I cannot relate to that. Having too much pride to tell my sponsor I was molested, or you, or all the people listening to this, right? That has never been an issue for me. Right? I don't know why. It's just like a gift or whatever, but I am completely okay to allow myself to become vulnerable in front of anybody, right? And I don't know if that's like a damaged property of me from my childhood or what, but like that has never been an issue, because I have people who are going through similar situations that I was going through, and we're talking on the phone. I'm like, oh, dude, I have this great therapist. He could help you out. Oh no, I'm not ready for that. And it's like, what plays it? What's a factor in that? Are you too prideful? Are you, you know what I mean? Do you get off in a weird way of like thriving in your chaos? Like, what does that look like to you? Do you know what I mean? And it's just it's amazing if you can just let your guard down and fucking be vulnerable, how much you can heal. You know? So I mean, I understand that. I was like the exact opposite though. Like, I'll cry to you right now and tell you my deepest, darkest secrets. Like, it's not a problem at all. It's just for some reason I had never had an issue opening up to people.
And I envy that because, kind of backtracking just a little bit, my first rehab too was at 14. I was scheduled to go to Utah to do a place like that.
Oh,
and I got lucky. And that was only because my parents had split custody at the time and my dad wouldn't sign the paper. It's the only reason why they didn't come take me.
wow.
But I was that person where there was a lot of pride for me. And again, this is from a clinical aspect, right? There is this avoidant attachment style of I can only rely upon myself. No one's coming. And so there's a degree of strength and pride that came along from my ability to buck up, get through it, do whatever. No one's coming. And that served me in a lot of areas. And that was part of the challenge in the therapy and healing work later was I'm protecting against a threat that doesn't even exist anymore, just for me to feel good about me. For everyone who's listening, I'll give you a fun little assignment that my therapist first gave me that I absolutely loathe, to go watch Inside Out, right? The first one.
Yeah.
And just simply try to connect. And that stupid part with Bing Bong when the thing's going up and doing whatever, like I'm by myself. There's no one in the house but me. And I'm watching this and it's starting to get to me and I'm shoving it down.
Right.
And it's been interesting because I've noticed that this being so ingrained that even with my fiance now, there was a time where we'd be watching something and she'd be right here and I'm right here and the TV's over here and something's getting to me and the tear falls on the eye that's away from her. And it's that ingrained. And it's been such a trip to see how that just gets instilled in us.
Yeah. It's a protective factor,
Right.
Yeah. It is so interesting how that, like that situation you just said, it's like one tear, you can't see it. Transparency is difficult. It is. I mean, I feel like this is the human condition, just to be protected, right? And to have your guard up, especially in today's day and age, especially in active addiction or recovery, right? Like that state comes natural for us, right? A part of me admires you for that, because there are certain situations where I'm talking to somebody and I'm like, I've said too much. You know what I mean? Right. And it's like, if I could just have had my guard up in this moment, and there have been situations in therapy with like family where she's like, I'm a mandated reporter. Right. And I was like,
oh, yeah,
fuck, like literally, like, and then the whole nother bag of trauma and a year of fucking bullshit because I was just like transparent with how I'm feeling. Right? So there is a part of me that admires that you have that protective factor, so to speak. Right. Yeah. But again, it's a balancing act, Like that's life.
And the craziest part about this, and maybe you can relate to this, I don't know if you can. When I got sober this time around, there was a realization, and I can't remember exactly how far in, but it's like, fuck, I just didn't want to get high. Like there's all this work that comes along, and you're just like, dude, I just wanted to stop getting high. And everyone who knows about the journey just starts laughing at you like, yeah, we thought that too.
Right. Yeah. 100%. No, I can relate to that for sure. It's exhausting, man.
It makes sense why people don't want to do it.
Yeah, it's a trip, man.
I would say that I'm going to use the word sensitivity for lack of a better word.
No, please do. Yeah.
I think that it serves you really well, though, because I know music has been a big part of your life, especially in sobriety. I know you're constantly making music, doing all that stuff. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh my God, man. So, and here's the thing, and this is another, I guess you just call it a lie, a false belief that like my addict brain is telling me in initial recovery to like to get me to go back out and use, right? In active addiction, dude, picking up a guitar was a chore, right? Like I could barely do it. It took tremendous amounts of energy, right? And then I get clean and sober, and like it was still a chore because my brain just wasn't working right, you know?
Right.
I had done enough damage to my brain to where I was like, I was legit depressed for like 4 to 6 months, you know? Like I was not motivated to do anything, right? But like I have a firm belief that we were born to create, right? And whether it's a podcast or music or I mean it could be anything in the fucking dude. You know, you can create meals and be a chef. I don't give a fuck, dude. You know? Like we were born to create. We're create a fucking kid and have a family. Like it doesn't matter what it is. But music has been like the ultimate coping skill for me over the last 7 years, man. And like I said, it took some time. And then again, contrary thought of like, oh, I have like an idea for a chord progression and I'll pick up my guitar and I'm not feeling it. And I'm like extremely challenged and I'm just getting fucking frustrated. Hate my current situation. Then I died 8 feet into a pity party. You know what I mean? It's like, is this what I do best? You know? And let me
Is
tell
that
you
one of
how
those
I feel.
character defects that sticks around?
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like instilled in me just a learned behavior through an addiction, you know? But it's truly amazing. My brain would tell me, oh, you'll never be able to write another song, or you can't create good lyrics. You need to go and get high. Like that was an active thought in my head from right since then, man. It's crazy. I write like I'm in active addiction. I do. I literally, I write like I'm in active addiction that I'm still struggling, or I write about, we'll go with a traumatic situation, right? Like I read a song about my sister who's like currently missing, right? And we don't even know if she's alive. I enjoy it. It just helps me tremendously, dude. Anytime it's a great escape at night. It's one of the things I do every night. I pick up my guitar for like 15 minutes and just play, kind of just decompress from the day. And I mean, in the process, dude, I had been putting out music for a while and you can like see the progression of it getting better. And I put out some music and it hit like 1.3 million streams on Spotify.
Oh shit.
Right. So again,
Hell
it's like
yeah.
this like negative belief of I will not be good at anything. I cannot succeed, cannot write a good song or like formulate a good chord progression or figure out a new picking pattern. You need to go get high, right? All lies, all bullshit, right? And just consistency with what I truly enjoy. I was told early on, you keep relapsing because you haven't found your passion, right? And I just took such offense to it, you know? And I was like, well, tell me what it is, please, you know? Give me the answers. And it's amazing, man. I can do many things in my life and I'm good at 3 of them. You know what I mean?
What do you mean you can do many things, but you're only good at 3 of them?
Like I can do a lot of shit. What is the term? Jack of all trades, master of nothing, right? Like I'm very good at playing guitar, right? Not to toot my own horn, but like I know how to play a guitar, right? I enjoy it. I love it. It's a true passion of mine. It's been a huge coping skill, a great outlet for all and anything I'm going through, right? I'm good at being a parent, right? Which I never would have fucking thought, dude. Like my wife said I'm pregnant. I was like, I'm moving to Canada. That was like my legit like conversation with her. I was like, I might just move. I don't know if I can do this, you know? And it's just one thing I'm extremely fucking good at, right? And the third is just talking to another alcoholic. Right. And it's like, so if I can find the few things that I'm good at, not even like, I mean, we'll go with passionate, right? If I have passion for creating music, then I will run with it. It's just difficult figuring out what you're good at, what you don't like, right? Same with like coping skills. Okay. Yoga works for her. Yoga's not going to work for me, right? You know what I mean? Meditation works for him. Playing music works for me, right? I hate using the like analogy as an antidepressant, but like it's just trial and error. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? But figure out what works, what doesn't work, right? And hopefully in that process you find things that you enjoy, right? And like granted, I would never play music for a living, you know?
That was going to be my next thing is that a lot of people, when they hear you haven't found your passion yet, they conflate that with whatever it is has got to be my occupation.
Right, exactly. No, it doesn't at all, dude. You know what I mean? I am fully self-aware of a nervous disposition I've always had. I am fully aware of my anxiety and when it happens, and I'm fully implementing the coping skills to get through that. That's like my day to day. And it is my way of life, but I do understand. I mean, I played music for people, I played shows, and it's just like, dude, the feelings behind it are just like completely unbearable. You know what I mean? And it makes me think, oh, a Xanax would be great, or a drink would be great, right?
Absolutely.
Even with years of sobriety, it's like, why would I hone in on that in that aspect when I am completely fine? It's a perfect outlet, right? It could be poetry. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, man. escape by cooking a meal, whatever it is, and but yeah, no, people, I could never fucking do it for a living. Hell no, I'm completely fine. I'm terrified of the amount of people that listen to the music, right? Because I feel extremely vulnerable,
Yeah.
And I just watched it grow, and I was just like, "What the fuck, dude?"
And I'm assuming it was just one of those passion project, hobby type things that you
Yeah.
never thought would reach such heights.
My friend was like, "Dude, this is amazing. You need to like put this out there." And I'm like, "Oh no, this is just like for me to get through. Like this is for me. This is not for anybody else." And he's like, "Dude, what are you being so selfish? You know what I mean?" He's like,
But
"I'm
you
tapping."
the self, yeah.
He goes, "I'm tapping my foot to this, dude. Other people could too." I was like, "I guess he has a point. I mean, but I don't do it for that. I do it for like the fulfillment with me."
Well, and then I think that's that authenticity component, right? We had somebody on the last episode where, he goes out and does the EDM stuff all the time, and he's,
Okay.
going to EDC and doing all that, and he's DJing in front of the whole things, and he's been
Beautiful.
quite successful at it. And, I only brought it up because, when I'm talking to him, there's the barbershop haircut analogy, and his whole thing was more or less like, hey, listen, and I'm paraphrasing, music has always been a part of my life. But when I got sober and was doing this thing, it's not like I said EDM is going to be my thing that keeps me sober. It was something that he rediscovered, that passion that he's always had, that when he does it, it allows him to just be that authentic version of himself. And he's not trying to live vicariously through the environment.
Right.
He just is who he is in that environment.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, dude, we get clean and sober. We don't know who the fuck we are, right? Looking at in the mirror at 26, and you're like, you don't have no life skills, no coping skills. You don't even know who you are as a person. You've been lying your way through your entire life. Like, who am I, right? Okay, well, I really like poetry and I like to play guitar, right? Like that's like the roots of the start of it all,
Right.
and that just slowly developed and became this thing, right? But like to also be fully self-aware of like understanding I would not want to do that for a living. Like I wouldn't even attempt it because I feel like it would take away from like it's a healing process for me.
Absolutely.
Right. And
Well,
it's so
going back to the
important to me,
ego,
dude.
right?
What?
Going back to like the ego too. It's like if you're doing this to go out there and be famous and do all this stuff. I mean, I feel like, you talked about being clear with your motives and going into it, right? I feel like that'd be one piece to it.
Yeah. No, it would totally lose its value to me. We lose our innocence in our addiction. We lose our innocence even in a 40-hour fucking work week, man. It's like built for disconnect. Society is just built this way. And the fact that I have fun now in sobriety saying stupid fucking words and just annoying my wife, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a beautiful thing that I have this sense of innocence within me and a sense of humor and just fun. And I can still be my true, authentic self with my music, and I don't give a fuck, dude. I had an old colleague was like, I listened to your new song and it made me want to kill myself. I swear to
Was that
God.
a compliment?
I go, thank you. You know what I
Yeah, I
mean?
was gonna say. Yeah.
I was like, dude, and that's not even the fucking point of it, dude. And it's a healing process to me. And I mean, for me, it's music therapy, 12 steps, right? It's three fucking things that I've stuck with over the last, by the grace of God, 7 years in June, right? That have worked for me. But I have tried many other things that just did not relieve me the way, like, just writing a song about a situation or my history. Like there was no bigger healing process in my life than just picking up a guitar, taking the time to get creative, put some lyrics to a chord progression, figuring that out, then going into a studio, doing it all over again, piece by piece by piece. So it's a long going process, but it's just the ultimate end goal. You get the healing process of actually doing that, and then the sense of accomplishment at the end. And with accomplishment comes happiness, comes joy, It's just fucking getting to it, man, the hardest part.
Happiness is one of the biggest interesting things that I've always noticed with people who, like you say, have found, like yourself and others who have found something, is that happiness turns out to be the byproduct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. Yeah.
Well, and I bring that up because working in treatment, working with clients, I mean, one of the number one cliches is I want to be happy. And it's like, it doesn't work like that.
No. Yeah. It's the easy way out. It just doesn't work like that, You have to face your fear and just walk through it, right? It's a trip, dude. I don't know. I mean, by all means, you're a lot like me, man. We've had more chances to die than we've had to live, right? The fact that we have air in our lungs today is something I try not to take for granted,
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sure you being a parent and stuff too, because I feel like life gets to that point where I don't want to use the cliche, we got a good forgetter, but I'm saying that the farther you get away from that last drink or drug and the bigger life gets, life stays lifey, and it takes an active practice to remain connected to that thing that brought you in?
It'll always be the roots for sure, right? I mean, yeah, we build and we have this like sense of evolution, right, within ourselves and our lives, and we pick up the pieces and we put together this like beautiful broken mosaic, right, and we do our very best. But at the root of it, man, it just comes down to surrendering and powerlessness, unmanageability, right? And I can apply that to my life today in a bunch of situations. But the one thing I do apply to my life is the whole pride and ego thing, right? Because that affects me daily. It's amazing. My ego will fucking. I'll be sleeping in the car tonight if I can't acknowledge my ego in a disagreement. Let's example, right? In like a disagreement, if I can't like acknowledge my ego and put it in its place like immediately, like will not be good, man. You know what I mean? Right. Like I'm still that human, but I've transformed tremendously over the years, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So ongoing. It's just a balancing act, like I said.
And it's such a process of self discovery that, I believe that we, like I said, we just don't want to get high in the beginning, and we just stumble into this process that is beautiful. It creates this amazing life. It's got so many wonderful things, but it's an ongoing, subjective, self evaluative process.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I always make clarification in that too when I speak at meetings, just so we're clear. I'm not here to boast about like everything that I've accomplished. The last 6.5 years have been the hardest of my life, right? And they have been the most rewarding and humbling and fulfilling years of my life, but still the most difficult. You live a life in addiction and you strip that from your body's in survival mode, you're shitting your fucking pants, you're trying to figure it out, right? It's like it's an uphill battle, man. And it's important to acknowledge that.
What's your advice to someone who is or may be considering getting sober?
Man, I feel like it's what I tell everybody that you have a purpose, right? That you have a purpose in this life, and there's an alternative route to live, right? And I do with I have this conversation with my sister whenever she calls, and I just let her know how much she's loved, and just always create an open avenue, and just to remind her that we're here for her, and we love her, and we will support her no matter what, right? And that you have a purpose, and we will help you find it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Vegas, appreciate it. Thank you so much, bud.
Hey, I'm grateful for you, man. This is incredible. Yeah.
Definitely got to get you back on here one of these times.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we'll figure it out, man. I'm here for you no matter
Hell
what.
yeah.